fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got really outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Good evening and welcome to another Enduro in the Ozicar Skip Barber Season 5. It is round 6 and we are at the Nordschleife for 6 laps, 50 minutes of green hell here on Simspeed TV. They've had an hour to qualify. Only 12 of the 19-odd drivers have managed to put a time down, though, with one more still out there trying to put a last gasp effort in, and he's actually abandoned that effort now. So, qualifying's done. We're about to head into a 50-minute race here, David, and this is going to be a really tough event for these drivers. We know how treacherous this track is. They're going to have to contend with a safety car at some point as well, plus pit stops with slightly different regulations to normal. Lots to think about.
Yeah, it's a long race and survival is pretty key on the Nordschleife. That's what it's known for. That's what makes it a challenge. And that's why the people who like it. It's got to be one of the toughest venues just to keep your focus, keep your rhythm, not get fatigued, and then keep it off the walls because the walls are close. There is so many blind corners, steep curbs, everything that is a real challenge for drivers. And then you add in some of the really long straights and how massive the slipstreaming can be in these Skip Barber cars. That makes it even more treacherous, not just a hot lap, but to race.
Let's take a look at the championship standings then, as we are into the 6th round, which should be the final round of the championship as well. The Team Enduro isn't a points race that counts to the points, but there is a 7th round before that, so ignore me. The gap, though, is 18 points from Cameron Dance to James Chastanoff. David, we've seen Dance dominate almost every race. We know Chastity is hunting to finish ahead of him. He's got a good opportunity today, starting ahead on the grid, and he really needs to do it to get ahead of him. Look at that wins column. 7 for Dance and just 1 for Russell Clark, the only other driver with a win.
Yeah, precisely. That makes it just so difficult for anyone to be able to overcome Dance's points advantage. It's going to require him to have a very bad race today and Chastanoff to finish very well to be able to claw back that difference. The way the points drops from 1st to 2nd to 3rd to 4th to 5th, there is a very long tail. So that means Chastanoff would have trouble getting a big points delta against Cam Dance unless Dance has a DNF.
How about 6th through 10th? 9 points between Braden Martin and Jason Fewins covering those spots. I'd keep an eye out on that battle out there today for sure. Martin, Bush, Wilkinson, Bakatsulis, and Fewins. Martin starting from 3rd, Fewins from 5th, Bush and Wilkinson from 7th and 8th. Who would you see as a bit of a dark horse for today's race?
A dark horse. Well, obviously we can see what the qualifying times were, and I have to say it's interesting to see Vernie and Martin in 2nd and 3rd on the grid. That's where they're going to start for this race. That's, we see them troubling the top 10, we see them troubling the top 5, but those two starting from 2nd and 3rd, definitely they've qualified well. Qualifying here is as tricky as racing here. We can bring forward that graphic for the grid, even though we may be a while from them lining up in this order, but it does illustrate the point you're talking about, a dark horse. Normally, I guess, and based on the championship standings, we'd expect to see Chastanoff, Dance, and maybe some others ahead of Vernie and Martin. Interesting to see Russell Clark with the pole, I guess.
Yeah, Russell Clark looking like he's carrying some speed into this event. And we'll see if he can actually carry it through the race. He's had some bad fortune quite a bit as of late, whether that's of his own doing or just pure bad luck remains to be seen. But he will start on pole. He will have Nathan Verney alongside him. Braden Martin and James Chastaneff on that second row, with Fewens and Mites lining up on row 3. Jeremy Bush, Wilkinson, 7th, 8th, and Thelberg and Leon Williams, 9th and 10th. Now, you can see how big the spread is in terms of times, how much drivers struggled to put a time down, and there's 26 seconds covering the top 10, but it is an 8-minute lap time.
I don't know how long I can hold my breath for. It might not even be a minute. You see Reg James in 11th and Matthew Joy in 12th. Drivers with qualifying times, and then you get the drivers who didn't get a qualifying time. Dennis Hancock, Philip Packett-Soulis, Mark Jeffrey, Cameron Cousins, Darren Lesue, Sean Doyle, and Cam Dance. We think, with that many drivers without a qualifying time, that the tiebreaker is by I rating, which would see Cam Dance start from 13th. And I'd have to look quickly to see who would probably be behind him. I think it would be Sean Doyle. So with so many drivers without a qualifying time, they have to get gridded in some order. So something has to be the tiebreaker. It either ends up being I rating or the order they rocked up in the paddock and joined the session.
Race Control could be in with a shout for a top 15 start here.
Sure could. But one of the things to note about the Nordschleife compared to a lot of the other tracks we've been to and we go to is it's unique. It's its own beast. There are people who might be top 10 material somewhere else who are podium material here because they specialize in the Nürburgring. It's a track all to itself and its own character and its own challenges. There are some people who love this place. They go very, very well here, and might get outpaced and such at some other tracks. But here, this is their home, this is their talent, and they might spring a surprise on us today, potentially.
Hopefully. Going to be pretty crazy, this one. There's a little sum of Russell Clark as he went through.
What's that corner called?
First corner. I don't know what the first corner is called. I don't know what the second corner is called. And I don't know what the rest of the 100 and so corners are called either, so don't try to pull that one on me, David. Do you know what it's called?
Yeah, that's Nordkera. So then he's heading down the hill in towards the Hatzenbach. And then, of course, that leads him through the fast section up towards the Flugplatz. Maybe we'll go through the grid again because it's about time. Maybe we won't, but they are going to start gridding up now behind a beautiful Porsche safety car.
Rolling start, bit of a difference for the Skip Barber series and the fuel, or rather pit stop regulations as well. They need a pit for fuel, which means I don't think we're going to see any early stops like we normally see. They don't need to take tyres, and I doubt anyone will because it's going to cost you a lot of time. You know how long pit stops generally are in the Skippies. Pit crews at this level are not fantastic on high racing. Offers up a chance for the drivers at the front to put their heads down and skip away from some of the hard challenges from behind. Everyone is going to be looking out for Cameron Dance.
The qualifying grid, has been updated now that they're beginning to grid up. So there's drivers without a qualifying time. We now have corrected their order. It is going to be Cameron Dance from Sean Doyle, from Dennis Hancock, Mark Jeffrey, Philip Packett-Soulis, Darren Lesue, and Isaac Summers, then Cameron Cousins. It has used the tiebreaker by I rating. So typically, I rating would mean nothing in this league, except when you get this many drivers without a qualifying time and they have to resort to something for a tiebreaker that isn't flipping a coin.
Just so difficult to put down an 8-minute lap without running slightly wide and picking up an off-track once. I mean, all it needs is 2 tyres off the tarmac and that's your entire lap done. Then you've got to spend 8 minutes getting back to the start-finish line to try again.
Is that Postman Pat's van? The proportions on that look a little off. It is a little cartoonish with wheels that size.
They are incredibly small wheels, you're right.
Dropping in the fan shop maybe as well.
Judging by the way that's parked on that driveway, I suspect that may be a permanent fixture, that truck. Otherwise, it's about a 12-point turn to get out of there. And if you do mess up on your qualifying lap, get about 16 minutes until you actually get another time lap in, because you have to tow back to pits and then an 8-minute out lap before an 8-minute flying lap. So it's a long old process. Just one of the quirks of racing at a 14.1 kilometer racetrack, the longest in iRacing, as we're rolling off now. And we are getting set for the start of our 6th round of the season.
I'm nervous with excitement, and I'm sure a lot of our drivers are maybe nervous with terror at this place and the wheel-to-wheel racing ahead of them. Hope we get a clean start, but passing is so difficult around a lot of this track, being narrow, being bumpy, being blind corners.
No Grand Prix layout, so no easy overtaking opportunities. It's all tight, it's all twisty, undulating, elevated, bumpy, winding country roads through the German forest. Pace cars out of the way. Field in the hands of Russell Clark. And for the first time tonight, for the last time tonight, green flag is out and we are racing from the Nordschleife here in Germany. And it's a good start for Russell Clark. A bit of a gap already for the top half a dozen breaking away as everyone else tiptoes through the first couple of corners. Very wary of trying not to make a mistake and throw it away this early on.
Great view. Looking forward from 4th place Chastanov, who needs to make hay while the sun doesn't shine in this round. He needs to get on away, get on clear. We've got our first casualty already, who rolls back across the track. Not a good move.
How on earth did, I think, Jason Fewins miss here? That was remarkable. And Cameron Dance is up to P7 already, by the way. How has he done that? Picked up 5 spots in no time at all. So a lucky escape for quite a lot of drivers. If that had have made contact between multiple cars, that would have caught out a lot of drivers towards the back of the pack. I spied some side-by-side a little further up the road, and it is Jeremy Bush. Cameron Dance slicing through on the inside, taking himself further up the order. And it is taking him no time at all. He's already alongside Matthew Mites. I mean, this is ridiculously fast. 7 spots for Cameron Dance already.
Going to find himself in a difficult position, though, coming up towards Swedenkreuz, where he's going to come over the crest of the hill on the outside. And that Armco is painted red and white for good caution, but he's managed to sweep his way through, and it's a wiggle from those behind.
Sean Doyle having to just tuck in and wait for Matthew Mites to settle before he can try as well. But Mites way too deep into the right corner.
And Reg James have come to grief there, though.
James facing the wrong way, out in the grass. See if we can get that going, whether he might have caught the fence and is done with the toe to the pit lane. Virtual Racing School replay will tell us the tale. This is where we saw Dance and Mites going side by side. It didn't quite work out as well for these guys. James losing it on the rear and nowhere for Beckett Stilas to go.
Yeah, around the outside there just doesn't work. You run out of room, you run out of space. It's bumpier around the outside than it is on the racing line as well, and that has put both of them on the tow hook very early.
So Clark leads by a second, 2.7 back to Chastity. Vernie in second. Cameron Dance is 4th. And he's done that in about 2 kilometers worth of racing. Here's an onboard replay, bottom right of your screen, thanks to VRS. And that is how the 111 Esports machine somehow swerved around and avoided the spinning car of, was that Braden Martin?
Yeah, it was Braden Martin. Good stuff there from that onboard. Now we've got a little bit more drama as we come around towards the
No, he
right.
tagged him. I thought he just missed him, David, but it looks like Dennis Hancock, Peter Wilkinson, it plucked the left rear off for a second, but I think he's got some sturdy wheel tethers because it's right back on the car.
We'll grab yet another Virtual Racing School replay. Take a look at this one. Again, we're looked in from Braden Martin. Bit of a check-up in front of him. It's behind Peter Wilkinson. Not Peter Wilkinson, was it? Martin has a look, gives the tap there, which was a bit cheeky. But then the dramas go on behind there as well because he's right on the racing line on the exit of the triple apex corner.
With Martin. as he went on and had another incident down the road. So Braden Martin's been involved with 3 incidents in the opening 5th of a lap here at the Nords. Yeah, very lucky. In fact, he got hit twice in the left rear, Wilkinson. He's so fortunate to keep that left rear attached. Now, this is Martin further on. And I can tell you now, his car is handling very poorly indeed. Big damage to the car at the back and at the front, because he has clobbered the concrete with both sides.
Yeah, that front right ain't great. The rear's let go. He's braking downhill, probably grabbing a couple of downshifts there as well. And the rear has let go very early, and there's no way he was keeping that away from the Armco and the soundproofing that keeps some of the car noise away from the residents of Versifen.
Along with Cameron's rise up the order, Sean Doyle's gone with him. They started 12th and 13th. They're now 4th and 5th. There is a bit of a gap between them, but still a stellar effort from both drivers to climb through that mid-pack so quickly. And in fact, here comes Cameron Dance, looking to get by James Chastanov, who's going to be sorely disappointed by this. His championship rival and the championship leader has already got to his back gearbox and is hunting for a way by.
Right side, there's Ifen's the corner before.
The only way I can see this going wrong is if Dance just becomes too eager and a bit impatient. Goes for a move that isn't quite there, David.
Dance is thinking about the win. He's got to be thinking about the fact that it looks like Clark and Verney are getting away from Chastanov a little bit. If Dance spends forever here, then it leaves a lot of time that he'd need to pick up again later on. This is my favourite section of the lap, by the way, because the corners just keep coming. It's like a rally stage. You know, you've got to stay inside right on the exit and then don't cut certain bits and look for some of these jumps and imperfections where you maybe want to be to the right-hand side of the track or the left-hand side of the track, and then you're turning in as the car lands on the bump this bit here. Dance with a much earlier turn in than Chastanov there.
In fact, he actually clipped the curb, didn't he? And it unsettled the Skippy just a touch. I reckon it might have been a fraction too early. But he's just trying to sight the corners at this point. Being cooped up behind a preceding car can make it a little bit difficult to sight your turning points, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely, it can. You're not short of reference points with trees and painted bits of Armco and that, but you do start to lose some of your vision right up behind another car. Is it going to come through the mini carousel? It's a tough corner to get right as well, because you sort of jump out of the carousel at the exit. You jump out a little bit too early, you slide towards the Armco. If you stay in it too long, you're throwing away some speed. But this is the fastest bit of the track, where you really, really want to seal some of your overtakes. Someone can get you back in the slipstream, though. It's worse than Daytona.
Too easy. Too easy for Cameron Dance. He'll complete this. Chastanov will tuck back in.
Chastanov getting back. It's too early.
If he wants, he can. In fact, the issue he's got now is he's not getting any run because he's tucked right back in behind him. He's not getting any benefit. He can't go anywhere with it. Is he fuel saving, though? If you just listen on board, we know fuel's the limiting factor to the pit stops today. So if you can save a little bit, it'll help you out at the end of the race. Chastanov's definitely lifting off, but that could just be because he doesn't want to go by Cameron Dance. And he lifts off much earlier. Dance is ultra committed into the last complex of corners, especially compared to Chastanov. Look at this.
Yeah, got the 111 cars here of Wilkinson and Summers and R.F. Elberg in this here as we look from Peter Wilkinson.
That looks a little bit sketchy for a minute from that other angle as Felberg just slotted through behind Wilkinson, but
so far everyone dodging the pit lane as well, by the way, and I can totally understand that from the leaders because, well, they might struggle to fill the car and get home from here, but then also they absolutely don't want to get trapped behind traffic on this circuit, you would lose 10, 15 seconds if you were behind someone who hadn't pitted. And this is a tale of woe. It looks like he snapped his neck, but it's just how much the steering is to the left to try to make that thing go in a straight line for poor Braden Martin, limping it back around. He's definitely going to be someone we're going to see in the pit lane.
A 2.6 second advantage for Clark. Remember, it was a second very early on, so he's continuing to slowly edge that out. Cameron Dance is 5.8 away. I took a little bit of a gander at the lap time, or the time difference between them all when he got by Chastanov, and it was at 6.6. So he's made progress, and Chastanov's actually maintained the gap just a little bit. And by the way, Wilkinson, David, Wilkinson's got back by Ira Felberg as Braden Martin comes to the pit lane because that car is not in a good way. Good news for him is the safety car will come out at some point and he'll be able to close up to the field.
Yeah, an interesting virtual safety car procedure it's going to be, which I'm sure we're going to have time to cover when it comes up. But yeah, it should definitely help him gather back at least a minute or so if he's that far behind. Dance real squirrely at the top of the hill heading into Adenauer Forst. You got to throw it across the curb into a blind corner. The rear got loose and he was all over the place, well away from the best racing line. But crucially, he was committed.
Yeah, exactly right. And just looking at Chastity here, he's doing a really good job of sticking with Dance.
I mean, the lines, he's made a bit of a mongrel of a couple of these corners, including sort of turning in from on the grass. And then almost Tony Hawk grinding the curb on the exit there. Dramas for Busch. Back left doesn't look good on that. Very easy to push in a wheel. This is Versiphon. One of the slower corners, one of the tougher corners. You're turning and braking downhill and it's bumpy. Into a very slow section of track where the Armco is oh so close. And Breitscheid, where Braden Martin came to grief and where Chastanov is going to almost come to grief.
That needs a replay. Has he kept it off the fence? No, he's not quite, but that was a big old slide. Had that thing hanging completely sideways, and he used the fence to correct himself a little bit, and he's got away with it in terms of damage. Here's the replay. Look to the bottom right of your screen. The right rear tires tagged the fence just behind the camera and straightened him out, much to his pleasure.
Now he's just got to hope and pray and cross everything that he's still in the slipstream of Cameron Dance coming up the hill here. The hill really works against you, so slipstream is doubly powerful if you can get it to help you climb the hill. But I think he's just outside of that 1.5 second.
He is.
Having made that little mistake. That has really, really hurt Chastity. He didn't need to push that hard.
And Dance is about the same range from Verney that Chastity is from Dance. There really is going to be no benefit for him because Dance will be getting the exact same thing from Verney up the road. How about Russell Clark's pace? He's actually starting to open up the gap to Cameron Dance. But all is relative. They're going to get bunched up. There's no reason to push now. Dance knows a safety car is coming, but as does Russell Clark. As does everyone in the field. We don't know when. But it will be sometime between now and the beginning of lap 5. It'll be a restart zone. It'll be a virtual safety car. It'll be called, and the lead will slow to 70 kilometers an hour at the start of that big back stretch. Field will then ideally all catch up. There is a 2-minute 28 spread between them, so I'm not entirely convinced. And they'll go back racing when they hit the stripe.
Well, think about how massive the delta is going to be. We've seen top speeds 210-ish kilometers an hour. The whole length of that straight for 2 kilometers, the leader doing 70 while other cars are allowed to catch them at 210. The delta is massive on that, isn't it?
Certainly, yeah.
It's the length of the Dottinghur is longer than the endurance pit lane at Spa. So picture a delta like that.
There it is, 2:30. So Reg James is that last car. Jeremy Bush as well, quite a ways off. A couple cars over a minute away. Chastanov's unsettled now, by the way. He looks really uncomfortable, I've just noticed, over the last sector, and he's falling further from Dance, who has climbed right onto the back of Vernie. You can see the attitude of Dance's car. He's just pushing harder, giving it more throttle earlier, getting the car slide and coaxing it around the corners.
You can see he's up to just 5.3 seconds behind Clark, but Vernie's also gone and lost another second and a half to Russell Clark, and that's brought the two of them together. Is not only Dance being the fastest car out there at the moment, it would appear, but also Vernie was doing a similar-ish pace to Clark about two and a half seconds back. Now he's 5 seconds back off that.
Well, that's seesawing, isn't it? Clark and Dance being relatively close together. As soon as Dance got within the slipstream range of Vernie, he sliced the gap to Clark overall. So the slipstream is helping him a bit. But I reckon Clark is going to have one heck of a fight to put up to him in the last half of this race. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch as Dance will pull the slingshot move on Vernie. Now, can Vernie come back at him like Chastanov could not?
If he chooses to, I'm sure Vernie can. It looked like Chastity decided he didn't want to. About a car length back now. Vernie closing back in. Will he pull back out? He will. So maybe Vernie will be the one to fight this. No virtual safety car this time around, so I wonder if any consider a green flag stop at this point. Seeing how much the field has strung out, they could probably get away with it if they wanted. Number 3 on the clicker, I think, on that.
What I would consider is this. Safety car comes in here, which means the field's back to green flag racing by the time you take your pit stop. Surely it'd be worth...
It's on the VSC graphic. The VSC is then active all the way through Hudson back here, and there's a mile marker post a bit further around here.
Okay. I thought it was the main straight.
No, it's at the end of the Hudson back here at Kvittelbacher, which is just as you get onto the straight heading towards Flugplatz. So VSC starts at the gantry, goes all the way to about here somewhere. I think it's that red post back there.
Yeah, all of those corner names meant nothing to me, David. But when you said here, I understood where we're going to be restarting. After getting by, look at the gap. 3 seconds. Good chance you could do this before the safety car comes out at all. Green flag stop for Darren Lassout. No tyres, just enough fuel to get him to the end. Big thanks to Simfinity and Prestige Badge, Trophy and Engraving, of course, for their support of the series, helping us to put these events and these broadcasts on, giving these guys a place to race and show off their skippy skills.
Yeah, so I think the green flag stop, green flag drop, is the best strategy to go for if you can find clean space to rejoin in before the safety car. Because if you've made your pit stop, then the safety car happens. We know standard, you'll cycle through to the front of the field, and that could be, beneficial if you're someone like Peter Wilkinson or a Jason Fewens, or even a Braden Martin, for example, could end up being in the top 5 at the restart. So, but it wouldn't work for, or give an advantage to someone like Dance or Vernie or Chastanov here, who would just then find themselves in some traffic until that safety car happens.
Speak of the devil. It will come out this lap. So once Clark reaches the big old straight.
Yes. The gantry at the start of the Dodinghur, and I think it says Audi Sport on it.
He will reduce speed to 70 kilometers an hour. There's a long way to go before he gets there.
Yeah, exactly. I was just thinking there's still 4 or 5 minutes before he gets to that. So
He might forget.
because they get to race until that point.
As do the cars behind,
Yeah.
even if the leaders caught it. Don't crash now.
No guarantee that Clark is actually the leader when we get there.
Right. Dance is closing very quickly. Dance is pretty savvy. He'll probably just sit behind.
No, I think they could actually, if they're going to pit under the VSC, you'd want to be the leader approaching the VSC.
Is there a benefit not pitting on a VSC?
Not now. If you pitted at end of last lap, you'd pick up a big benefit from it, because I think with Sue and Martin, if they are within 2 minutes of the lead, I think they'll cycle through to be the leaders at the end of this VSC. I think they'll be in front of Clark, Dance, and Vernie.
Well, that could be interesting. That will be interesting indeed.
VSC Delta, as I say, is going to be absolutely massive, doing 70 kilometers an hour for the 2 kilometer straight, where they are absolutely maxed out in the top gear at about 210 kilometers an hour. I think the delta from the start of that zone to the pit in is going to be about 2 minutes, and then there's another minute and a half after that through the huts and back, where the delta's not so significant because it is a big section of corners where they're obviously doing closer to 140, 150 than 210.
Yeah. Plenty to think about for these drivers, and you would hope that they've actually considered all of this before they make their decisions. Not always the easiest thing to do, while very frantically trying to weave your way through the country.
Surely they had all the time in the world from qualifying to race start to bust out the notepad and consider all the possibilities. There's only 4 laps where the safety car was even possible anyway in a 6-lap race. It really couldn't be the first one or the last one.
It could have been the first one.
Maybe. You knew that wasn't going to happen, though.
Under a second for the first time since the early quarters of lap 1. He's in the fence. Cameron Dance has whacked the Armco, but how hard has he hit it? Oh, he's hit it hard enough, because there goes the front wing.
Yeah, it's big. He's just got to hold on from here to the start of the VSC, though, and Vernie and Chastanov are close enough, specifically Vernie, that they could maybe jump him. So long as he doesn't lose too much time and he can make it to the start of the VSC, he'll surely be able to do 70 kilometers an hour with this damaged car. But here's how he did it. A little bit wide, a little bit of the grass. It's just before Brunchen.
Turned in too early. He just turned in too early, and carrying too much speed for it as a result. The car wouldn't stick on the exit. That's a big mistake for Dance. It shows you how hard he was pushing, though, to be able to get up to the back of Russell Clark.
Comes Vernie.
Vernie will have to be a little bit cautious trying to get around Dance.
John Vernie, I'm going to try to pass him before the start of that safety car zone. You've got to be able to get him before the gantry.
Yeah, sorry, I was just asking you a very silly question that Cameron Dance just asked Race Control and Sim, asking if they were allowed to close up to the car in front under a safety car period. Yes, is the answer to that one, Cameron. You would think someone of his experience knows what to do under a safety car. But Clark should have... Russell Clark has reached it, because he's just come over the radio and said, "Look, Mum, I'm a safety car."
I think you're missing a trick here, Vernie. You should have passed him before the gantry. He got way overslowed. He hit someone trying it. Maybe nope.
Doyle. Yeah, Doyle's just clued on to the fact it's a safety car. He's just clued on. He'll stop. It's no harm. No foul there.
Okay.
You're right. These are slow. This is a very slow pace.
Yeah. Seriously, you know, under like F1 safety car, they complain about how slow they're going when they knock off like 30-40% of the pace. We're knocking off 60% of the pace here in a straight line where there's no corners. Dance is allowed to close up a bit more to Clark if he wants to. But what I'm keeping an eye on is the delta from Clark to Lesueur and Martin, because it was 2 minutes, and I'm not sure my numbers are updating particularly quickly how much they're closing.
Gearbox cam of Clark, and look at the way Dance's car is tracking right now. He's got 2 spare cars. They've all got 2 spare cars available to them, and Dance will be very thankful to have one available. Look at the hands. 45 degrees, left hand down to go straight. I am confused as to why he's hanging too far back, this far back though. I think he's taking the 70 kilometers very literally, instead of just closing up to.
That's the speed Clark. For the pack leader to hold. Everyone else behind treats it like it's a safety car. They're allowed to close the gaps. He's almost driving like how you're meant to drive a Cadillac, you know, with just one hand lazily draped over the top of the steering wheel. Yeah. Except the left hand is still on it halfway down.
And this will be greatly annoying the rest of the field as well, because someone like Vernie and Chastanov might fancy the chances of jumping Russell Clark. So it's just a bizarre decision from Dance. Why? There is no risk. You're not going to crash the car at 70 kilometers an hour, even with that damage. Why is he giving Russell Clark this massive free kick into the pits? Clark is guaranteed to come out as a race leader.
Clark's pitted. Everyone in the train who hasn't pitted yet is obviously going to come through and grab the pit stop. Fortunately, he just arrives, Lesueur and
pit.
Martin.
Did I just see Lesueur pit? How about the cobblestone pit lane as Clark gets released past the gas pumps they weren't using? And there goes Dance in second. Vernie is going to get beaten by Sean Doyle and maybe Isaac Summers. Oh, that was tight. You can't fit 2 cars through there. Chastanov may have gotten close to an unsafe pit exit there as well. He turned left very quickly.
Guys are allowed to close the gaps. Dance not closing the gap to Russell Clark like he's allowed to do, again.
Cameron Dance frustrates me very much sometimes. Why is no one behind telling him to get his butt moving? Is the other thing. Why is no one telling him to get closer to Clark? It just seems ridiculous. Cam's a racer. He wants to win. You don't give away 3.5 seconds on a safety car. And Sean Doyle, look where he rejoined. He ended up 3rd, right behind Dance. He could have potentially jumped Clark had he not been about 78 seconds behind him coming into pit lane anyway.
Cracker of a pit stop from Doyle and Summers as well, who've jumped a whole heap of positions.
Well, if you're Russell Clark, you'd saying, I don't care what you're doing, Dance, but just keep doing it.
Yeah, Russell Clark has cleared the Hudson back, and I'm pretty sure it's this narrow bit here where he's allowed to resume.
Yep, there we go. And because Dance is so far back, it was too hard to judge when Clark had gone. And so he waited a long time as well before he went.
And 3 seconds at safety car speed, I think, is actually going to shake out to a couple more at race speed. I'm not sure based on the reaction time. We're going to see. They are racing once again.
All right. On board with Jason Fewins, running an 8th. Looking to the right-hand side of Matthew Mites. He was in this spot on lap 1 as well, up the road as Mites backs out of it, side by side. Vernie on the outside of Summers, and all out of shape, but getting it completed. Chastanov as well. So Summers loses 2 getting done around the outside of there.
He's still plus 13 positions in this race, though, because he hadn't trashed his car in the first segment, joined the train behind the safety car, and then had a very rapid pit stop, jumped a lot of people in that little pit lane. So this has still been a good little safety car period for Isaac Summers, even though he's immediately jumped by 2 people on the restart. If you go on YouTube, you'll see a lot of videos of people making that same mistake at Adnar Force. They come up the hill with too much speed and then get blindsided by the way it tightens up, and a lot of Golf GTIs have been wrecked that way. Here is Chastanov, though, looking for another one on Vernie.
Double left-hander for Chastanov gives him the advantage. Vernie recognises it and slots in behind him, making sure to cover off from Isaac Summers as well, who's looking to charge forward. Summers, as you mentioned, having a really good race despite losing those 2 spots. He'll want to stick with that duo. And in fact, he might pick up Vernie. No, just couldn't capitalise. It was a poor exit from Vernie. Grabbed too much of the curb and it almost beached the car. That little rise across the curb, and he thought about squeezing into that gap there. What a smoke at that corner there. Did you see that? Someone's had a big lock-up.
Lock-up in front, and the only people in front are Doyle, Dance, and Clark. So I want to suggest maybe Doyle had a little bit of a lock-up coming in there, but that is so easy to do the way the track drops away from you. The inside gets loosened and maybe wants to. Not another little repeat in the round there. The slide through Brideside. That seems Summers not right in front of Fewens, Mites, and Hancock.
A 154-kilometre racetrack, there's bound to be 1 or 2 corners you just can't get right every lap. And it seems that one is the one for Chastanov. That's what it's telling on iRacing. Whoa, hello! Chasty! Saved it. Good save. Is it not 154, David?
No, there'd be like 154. It says 154 turns, length 22 kilometers.
Yeah.
Not 154 kilometers.
I said turns.
I said kilometers.
I said turns.
Are we really going to have this fight in front of the children?
Jay is a child, isn't he? Chastanov, despite the mammoth slide and stylish catch, holds on to his place ahead of Vernie, and behind, Summers has got himself in between Fewens ahead and Mike's behind. Vernie's coming back at Chastanov, just out of shot. Ooh. Fewens was quite slow there. Sorry, Summers. Mike's really closed up, didn't he? This is a big show now. It pretty much goes from Chastanov down to Dennis Hancock. It encompasses most of the top 10.
Yeah, but we're approaching this segment with...
Oh, no, he can't do that, Mike. Can't do that. He's left the banking, and he's been hung out to dry. Loses out to Hancock. There's a theory that the top of the carousel is quicker, but I'm not buying it, because that was certainly very slow for Mike's.
Only if going into the carousel is going to damage your car, which it for some.
I've never seen 2 cars racing each other, trying to outdo each other is most likely to wreck. Both of them right on the edge.
Actually, don't they do it in the rain sometimes? If it's sufficiently slippery, you're like, let's just not go into the carousel. Let's stay on the flat.
It's a different track surface, isn't it?
Yeah, concrete's probably slipperier when it's wet as well as just being super treacherous.
Same thing. Chastanov's getting a lot of angle from the back of that car. It's sliding a lot more, just naturally it looks like. That's not a good racing line. 2 cars back. 111 Esports. Isaac Summers takes it for a field trip through the gravel and gets rounded up as a result by Dennis Hancock. Could be a quirk of his driving style, but Chastanov has got a car that is very much rear-end happy. You can see it there, can't you? Just how much it's wanting to move about at the back of the machine.
It's letting him follow the line he wants, though. It's getting the nose to the apex, especially through the sort of compound corners and the multiple apexes and the ones that flow into each other a bit through the S's.
Opening plenty of doors for Vernie, though, and keeping him in the game. They are 10 seconds away from Russell Clark already in this battle for P4.
I think what's most important as well is that they're letting Sean Doyle get away.
Yeah, for podium.
At least in qualifying, Vernie Chastain ought to have had the pace for him. That's not one you see very often.
That was some gamesmanship from Chastain. If he lifted off when he saw Vernie go for that move and let him go, because he wanted the slipstream, but he might have outplayed himself. Because Fewens is going to get a good run, and he's got to make sure Fewens doesn't get in between himself and Vernie. In fact, I reckon he's lifted off too much anyway. Vernie's got quite a gap.
If I'm Vernie, I come across to the right and just play them off against each other, keep them level behind me going into the corner. Not going to do that. He's to the left, and that benefits Chasty.
Hang on a minute. Chastanoff has just backed out of it there. They were both going to catch Vernie. It would have been an interesting three-wide piece of action. Instead, Jason Fewens is going to go from 6th to 4th in one deft swoop. Oh no! He's been hit, turned around, backwards on the track, and he takes Chastanoff with him. And both of them plummet out of the top 5. The engine pops for Fewens. Chastanoff straight into the pits for a spare car. What a shame. Just too deep on the brakes from Nathan Vernie. Got into the back of Jason Fewens, and it all went wrong from there.
Kind of smelt that one coming, unfortunately. Vernie needed to make sure he fully let him go and slotted in behind, but he didn't. They're still side by side here.
That was the hit right there that popped the motor at the back of the car. It popped just a second after it cut away there. Look at it from over with Chastanoff. He backs out of it right about here. Yeah, Vernie's just too... He's just gone too deep, hey? I wouldn't be surprised if that is adjudicated in Vernie's displeasure. There you go. There's the cloud of smoke from a blown motor. That was Jason Fewens' rocket ship down that straight until it all stopped very suddenly.
Well, you remember
2 laps to go, though.
Bit of a space commander in Long Beach as well. So another unfortunate result in this one for Fewens. It's a shame because, he's going for 3rd.
2 laps to go. The gap is 1.3 seconds. If Dance loses his race by less than 3 seconds, I mean...
He's never going to hear the end of it from us.
No, he's not. It would almost top him losing a championship for an illegal pass on the last restart of a year-long season. Not that I'd bring that up again.
We could call him... Win Cup if he doesn't follow safety car procedures.
I think he followed them. I think the issue is he followed them too much.
He was treating it like a Code 60, not a safety car.
What's the Code 6? Oh, yeah, no, I get... Yeah. My mind went
like
straight
a local
to
yellow enforced speed limit or something. When
yeah.
The function of it was 70 kilometers an hour was the guide speed for the safety car, and the safety car is whoever was the leader at that point. Everyone who wasn't the leader was bound by safety car rules, but not bound by speed limits.
Sean Doyle's in the lane of his own in 3rd place, by the way. But far from that is this scrap between Matthew Mites and Isaac Summers. We've seen Mites in a fair bit of action this race. And for all his trouble, he's pretty much right where he started. Having a solid all-run out there tonight. See Hancock lock up. Mites run slightly wide, and Summers just go a bit too shallow. picking up the curb.
Just as you're turning in towards the left, the track mightily drops away. Everyone's favourite drift corner.
What's the story behind all the graffiti on the racetrack then? Maybe after that crash is replayed.
Another tough corner on this track as you come up the hill. There's sort of a bump on the inside line there, and then the curbs are super steep if you get out of sorts. So we're going to take a look here. It was Summers, wasn't it?
Yes.
So the right-hander at the top of the hill, he's turned it in. He's clipped a bit too much of the apex. Car bounces across that, and then the tyre goes far side of the curb into the grass. But I think he was already in trouble before he got any of the grass.
Without the outside curb picking up the left side of the car, I think he might have got away with it. But unfortunately, this is not a track with lots of runoff. Cameron Dance, the second time, is within a second of Russell Clark. The first time it happened, it was a little bit further on from here on the racetrack, and he found the fence. But he made the same mistake twice. Will this come down to the final lap? Clark is going to have to defend. There's no way he can just let Dance win an 8th race this season. 8 from... come back. 10. Yep, that sounds about right.
Clark
Russell-
can defend this
If
all
Russell,
the way
yeah,
to the Dottinger Her, but then after that, you know, you're back to those Daytona strategies of, oh, hang on. I'll
Clark,
land it somehow.
Dance has won 7, Clark has won 1, so who's won the other? Mish McLeod. The occasional ring-in. Who goes alright when he turns up and puts some practice in. And isn't drunk.
About to say he turns up whenever he's had less than 2 beers before 7:30 p.m, so he's only turned up once.
Wide again from Clark. He's feeling the pressure now.
Doesn't
I feel
need
like-
to in this section of the track.
Have we been missing Clark for the last couple of rounds?
Not last round. He was definitely there
Or
last
he's-
round.
He's just been active in YouTube chat a lot, even while racing. In between races, rather.
Where's all his buddies that are always in there as well, giving us some great Russell Clark facts. Now that he's in the lead, I need some more Russell Clark facts.
Russell Clark has a previous history for bottling race wins. Remember that pit stop? Loves to spring that up. So it's no big deal if Dance gets by him on the straight, because he can slingshot back by. And by that theory, I would want to be the leader, because once you have basically 2 overtakes like that, the car behind passes and then gets past, there's no more opportunities until the next lap, and then that's a checkered flag. So I want to be leading on the last lap.
Gamesmanship from Dance here, I think, by the way, to back it up about 9/10. He had a bit of a wiggle through the little carousel, but then I think he's intentionally come back far enough that when he makes a move, there's no time left for Clark to do the Uno reverse card.
Yeah, here's some of that racing smarts we were wondering. Or
Saved
standing
all his
in-
IQ points for the last 2 laps. That's why they went walkabout early on.
Clark just moves it across, but he can't do much without it becoming illegal. He could have moved a bit more down the straight, but he can't move now because the class is blocking. Dance will breeze by on the inside. Is Clark gonna fight it? Surely he has to. He's not lifting off, and Dance is sticking with it as well, but he's not got the overlap anymore, and Clark shuts the door on his face. Too far, Cameron Dance. You lifted off too far. We'll come through the last set of corners. And
Well,
one
he was
last
just testing-
time.
Maybe he was just testing the waters for this time in 22.5 kilometers.
22 kilometers to go. Oh, 1 lap left. Fastest lap of the race, lap time 2 for Dance at 8 minutes, 0.5168. if he'd done that in qualifying, he would have put himself right on to pole position by 3 seconds.
Riveting stuff for the lead. It's going to be very, very interesting for the remaining lap. We've also got great little battles going on. 5th and 6th, where Braden Martin is sticking with Dennis Hancock, and then Peter Wilkinson, Ira Felberg, and Mark Jeffrey have all just set personal best laps as they warm up to the track in the closing segments of this race. So it's going to be plenty for us to look at on the final lap as well. We know Martin qualified very well here, so must have some confidence around this track, and he's got Dennis Hancock right in his grips as well.
How good's this multicam feature as well? If we can keep our eyes in 2 different places. How good is this run for Dance? Is it enough to slip up the inside? This is where he made a move on lap 1, but Clark is not giving up what is preferred as the outside when you're side by side. Catch that will work from Dance. Having to keep the car straight as it fights him.
Yeah, you can tell when the rear gets loose by what the hands do in relation to the movement of the car. That's one of those crests you come over and the car wants to get really, really taily right where they are, picture in picture now as well. There's a big wiggle there, and sometimes you need to do a big correction with the hands, but you hope you don't have to. Another place they come over a crest and the tail of the car gets light. So Dance having to make a correction there as well.
That was a full-on 4-wheel drift from Cameron Dance that time by. Oh! Did he crash? No. I was looking at the picture-in-picture in a very small 360p stream, and I thought one of them had crashed.
Now, Martin has gotten ahead of Hancock, though, in 5th and 6th in that battle, and now pulled almost a whole second on Hancock as well. So Martin was just waiting for that opportunity to pounce. Now he is through. Probably not going to catch Vernie on this final lap, though.
Are we allowed to root for the... I know we're supposed to be impartial, but are we allowed to root for the driver that hasn't won 7 races this season?
Oh,
and
yeah.
like 8 last season?
Now, I'm interested to see if Clark can bring this home, because Dance has obviously, tried to work out how the slipstream works on the Dodinga. He's, tried to measure out how quickly you can close and what you can do. So the gamesmanship is definitely going to come from Dance on this final lap. I wonder if Clark can game him back.
My money's on Sean Doyle in 3rd to pull off a win. Not too dissimilar to what we saw in the Busch Clash in NASCAR this year. The top 2 collide, and 3rd place picks up the pieces.
Come on, that race was like 24 hours ago if they haven't watched it now.
Chase screaming, spoiler alert, it was literally 32 hours ago. 36 hours.
Oh no, Braden Martin's back to 7th. What's he done? Well, the car's not as bad as it looked earlier in the race, but that's not great. He's given up 2 positions and a lot of time to Dennis Hancock and Matthew Mites.
Oh, how's he kept it off the fence there? Look at this. This is a good bit of handiwork, this.
Oh, yeah.
Who did we see do that earlier on, but not quite have the same luck? Yes, Isaac Summers will be looking at that thinking, why couldn't I get that lucky? Halfway through the lap, I think, and Dance is still stalking him. Through the carousel. There's the concrete patch that they use, the banking. Quite steep. What is the banking there at the carousel? David, you know?
I think when they got some equipment there and measured it, the reading was quite steep.
Nice and technical. I love it.
As with a lot of this track, it just sort of happened rather than being, precisely laid out to a particular geometric pattern. It's not, 15-degree banking. It's just sort of people started hooking their inside wheels into a drainage ditch, and eventually they had to pave it. And so it just sort of happened as it was. The picture-in-picture is Matthew Mites has gotten ahead of Dennis Hancock, and they are as close, if not closer, than the lead battle we watch on the main pictures, where Clark's car is starting to get a little out of hand, a bit more slip angle than we'd seen from him earlier in this one.
Clark is looking better on this lap. It doesn't matter, because Dance has all the power right now. If he lifts off and gets it right, there's nothing Clark can do except try for a Hail Mary around the outside of the last complex. If he passes Clark too early, then Clark can get it back quite easily. Or Dance can lift off too much and not get there at all, like we saw the previous lap. 22 kilometers for 6 laps. 130 odd kilometer race, and it's going to come down to the last kilometer or two. And one last roll of the dice. If Dance loses, questions will be asked about his safety car procedures.
So this is it. All of the keeping it off the wall, all of the strategy, all of the safety car and the fueling just comes down to a big old game of chess on the dotting of her on the final lap. Who jumps when, and do they time it right?
Pretty sure Dance just lifted a fraction then. He's dropped 2 tenths. And he's closer than he was last lap. He's 3 tenths closer. If I'm Clark, I'm moving it to the right-hand side of the road. I don't want to give him the inside run. That's exactly what he does. Does he go back to the left and try to snake it? Nope. He's putting the car here. He's shutting the door firmly. Keeping those right sides on the white line. And Dance draws ever closer. He'll pull out from behind him, and he will race by him with tremendous speed, and it's happened very late on the straight. Dance now trying to play the slipstream games. He's just got to get through here cleanly, into the braking zone. Clark's right there on his gearbox. There's no braking zone big enough to pull one up the inside. Through the last 2 corners, Cameron Dance on the last lap finally leads this race, and Cameron Dance wins at the Nordschleife.
Just timed it to perfection, jumped through, and then Clark couldn't swing back. I'd say it's a good result for Sean Doyle. 11 positions gained. Vernie's gonna limp it into 4th. Matthew Mites' competition dropped away in the form of Hancock and Braden Martin, and he gets a top 5.
Braden Martin across the line. Where is Peter Wilkinson?
I did see him limping a little bit on the final lap, and I don't know if that led to a retirement or there was some other problems going on.
James Chastanuff, championship, probably dead and buried now, isn't it? 11th place today. It was 18 points away coming in. It's 8 wins this season out of a possible 10 for Dance. Gotta commend the consistency.
Dance is doing some donuts there, by the way. So I think Cam doing some donuts counts as a dance revolution.
Jeremy Bush will pick up P14. Just trying to figure out what happened to Wilkinson. As everyone gets elevated up a spot thanks to his late departure from the racetrack. 4 cars finishing 1 or multiple laps down as well. If we can't get that replay up, we'll take a look at our final results then from the second Enduro of the season, coming to you from the Nordschleife in virtual Germany. Cameron Dance wins it by 0.4 of a second. He led for about a kilometre, and that's all he needed to lead for. As Clark comes home shy in second. Doyle third. Great drive from him, as you said. Nathan Verney and Matthew Mites, 4th and 5th. Good drive as well from Hancock, 15th to 6th, ahead of Braden Martin, Ara Felberg, Mark Jeffrey, and Darren Lasue.
Yeah, good to see Felberg, Jeffrey, and Lasue getting a top 10 very, very well deserved. And James Chastanoff, 11th, Leon Williams, 12th, Jason Fewens, 13th, Jeremy Bush, 14th, Reg James, 15th, Peter Wilkinson disappearing on the final lap, so not technically scored a lap down there, but I think you could effectively call that one lap down or last car on the lead lap before we go to the retirements of Isaac Summers, Cameron Cousins, Matthew Joy, and Philip Bakatsoulis removed on the first lap.
Let's have a chat then to our second place getter in a second, because here is a replay of Peter Wilkinson. This is a 2-part replay, apparently.
Just split the replay up into 2 to, increase the box office sales, apparently. So, part 1, Wilkinson going along just fine. Section of the track that's up towards Schwalbenschwanz, and on the entry too much speed, and on the exit the second part hits the grass, and whoa, he's only got one drive wheel on the ground there, almost making it a bit of a toboggan. It's falling off as he heads towards the mini carousel, looking a right handful there as well. Car not steering straight whatsoever. He comes through the mini carousel trying to get the thing back up to speed. It looks entirely unruly as he's got a lot of right hand down.
Yeah, that was never going to work, was it? Wait!
Oh! Nearly went
good...
fully clear of that arm.
Yeah, he did a good job of it, didn't he? Let's have a chat to Russell Clark then. Not quite the win. You looked set almost to take Russell. You're a little bit disappointed with second, given how close you came.
Yeah, it's disappointing, but expected. It's how races go here at Nordschleife. If there's a 2-car battle on the last lap, it's going to be the second car in the row that gets the win.
How did you see your race play out from your perspective? It was a pretty quiet one for the most part, wasn't it?
Yeah, at the start, I was just focused on breaking the draft to Verney, and I just tried to keep it off the walls until the safety car. And I was surprised Cam was so far back at the restart, but yeah, I knew he'd catch me. Even starting 13th, I knew he'd be at the front end by the end of the race. And yeah, I tried to drive as bad as I could on the last lap to get him in front of me, but he's too smart.
Under the safety car, we saw Cameron just hanging back a lot for no particular reason. How did you see that? I mean, it certainly was good for you because it allowed you to very comfortably maintain the lead under the pit stops.
Yeah, it was interesting. I thought maybe he was trying to just get a jump start on me so he could draft me past me real quick, but no, he just stayed back, and it was interesting. You have to ask him.
I think the positive for you there was, Russell, is you didn't need to use your spare car. Unlike him, who crashed.
Yeah, I noticed that. He chose a pretty good time to do it, though, unfortunately, for the rest of us.
Yeah, that is disappointing. I wish I'd done on lap 1. What? I didn't say that. So, one more round left in the championship. All out, going for the race win next time out?
Yeah, of course. Bathurst, one of my favourite and best tracks, so I'll be sending it. I'm not going to win the championship, I know that, but I'll just have some fun, see what happens.
Look forward to it. Who do you want to thank for helping you get it done?
No one. No.
Okay, cool.
Cheers, guys.
Talk to you next week. Russell Clark home in second, and home in third was Sean Doyle, who's having a chat to David Haynes.
Welcome to the commentary box, Sean. If you ignore Cam Dance and trust us, we will. You're the biggest mover in the race. Talk us through that, because there was, all sorts of opportunities to make passes on the Dodinga, jump cars through the pits in the safety car, but there's a lot of places around here that you can't pass as well.
Yeah, it worked in my favour. Like the first half a lap, I got real good positions, and it was nice and easy. Then all of a sudden in the pits, I made up some more spots. I was stoked. It doesn't normally happen to me in the pits, but it worked out good.
Yeah, it certainly did. You stand on the podium, 11 positions gained from 14th on the grid. Talking about that qualifying, I don't think we've ever seen a qualifying with so many drivers without a qualifying time. So what made qualifying difficult other than it's just a big lap?
Look, I tried to put in a time, but one tyre up onto the grass and it's all over. And when you think about it, it's an 8-minute lap. You take one tyre off and it wrecks your whole time.
And then, of course, you had to start behind Cam Dance. How did you would have had a good view of him on the race start? Is that one of the things that maybe helped you to move up some positions early as he was scything his way through and you stepped on through with him?
Well, that's what me and Cam just said. Me and him, it just seemed like the whole pack opened up for us. So me and him just kept going. It was good.
And a different pit strategy today as well than, I guess, the normal rounds and the normal format. Thoughts on that? Not changing tyres, having to put some fuel in it?
I don't mind putting the fuel. I like mixing it up a bit. It's quite entertaining just mixing it up a bit.
It certainly worked to your favour. So I guess you're going to be asking for this track to return in future because you get a third place and a whole heap of positions gained. Anyone you're going to thank?
Look, I'd like to thank White Knuckle Racing, mate, and you boys on the commentary, and me teammate Dennis. He done another good job tonight.
Easy and a far more sensible list than we heard out of Russell Clark. Thanks, Sean Doyle. One more round. Hopefully we're going to see you there.
You'll see me there, boys.
Good to hear. And I'll throw it one back to you, Ryan, because I think we've got one last person to interview.
Yeah, Cameron Dance, congratulations again. Race win number 8 for this season. You made it difficult for yourself. You did everything you could to try and lose the race, yet still somehow you win.
Yeah, I was actually surprised I actually managed to come through the field as quick as I did. But, yeah, I mean, I know Nord's reasonably well. There was a few times where I possibly could have thrown it away, including putting it in the barrier during the race just before the safety car came out. But, yeah, I mean, I'll take that at the end of the day. And the fact that we still have the championship at the same time is a really, really good way to end the season.
Sorry. What happened with that crash? You had to take the spare car, didn't you? You were catching Clark, and then your first mistake really of the entire race.
Yeah, I just more or less went into the corner just a little bit too hot, trying to push and trying to catch Russell. It was just a silly little mistake that I made on my own. So, yeah, it came at the right time and almost perfectly timed in regards to the safety car. But yeah, it wasn't too ideal, especially if it had been before or after the safety car because of the way that it would have played out. But yeah, I mean, it was just a little bit of luck that it played out when it did. But yeah, just my own silly fault trying to push a little bit too hard with where I was.
Safety car. Do you want to explain what was happening there? The leader's supposed to maintain 70 kilometers an hour. The rest of the pack is supposed to stay behind the leader. You wanted to be the leader, it seemed, and also held 70 kilometers an hour and gave Russell Clark a massive free kick, both in the pits and on the restart.
Yeah, I was kind of a little bit confused, to be honest, by what we were supposed to do on the safety car. I did read the rule, but I kind of might have misinterpreted it at the same time tonight, in the fact that I thought we were actually just supposed to maintain the gap. I didn't quite hear race control or IRA when I actually asked the question leading up to the point where we got to the safety car bridge, so I wasn't quite sure. But yeah, I mean, it kind of disadvantaged me and everybody else at the same time. It was playing it a little bit safe because I knew that there was no point putting myself at risk or doing anything silly in case I accidentally broke a rule or something based on the championship and everything. So yeah, it was my own fault again.
Well, you got one more round in the championship. You probably don't think so much about it now, do you? And that you've got this pretty comfortable lead. So what's the mindset heading in there? Yeah,
I mean, just matter of fact that we managed to wrap it up pretty much at this point. It's pretty much in the bag. So yeah, just massive shout out to obviously everybody involved, everybody behind the scenes. I mean, Ira, Race Control, you boys for putting on awesome broadcast, everybody on track, and obviously all the Fitstyle boys and our supporters and everybody in the car for making it all possible in the end, really.
Well, thank you for joining us and congratulations once again. So that wraps us up for tonight here on Simspeed TV for the Aussie Car Formula Skip Barber Series. But up next for this season is the final round of the championship, round 7 from Mount Panorama Circuit. Of course, Bathurst. Famed track right around the world. Going to be good fun in these cars. Slipstream Bonanza down Mountain and Conrod Straight. Make sure you like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at SimSpeed Source Network, and subscribe to us on YouTube as well so that you don't miss any of the action. Go and like Aussie Car while you're at it as well, so you can stay up to date with all of the latest news with the Aussie Car Series before tonight. From myself, Ryan Jones, and David Haynes alongside me, and Jay Kennedy behind the scenes. Thank you for tuning in. See you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness! Half the field's gonna get rolled.
Section's very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go.
Oh no!
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?